My name is Chloe Bennett. I am 29 years old. And the night my family laughed at my invention was the night something inside me went completely silent. It happened at dinner. Nothing dramatic at first. Just plates clinking, small talk, the kind of evening that is supposed to feel safe. I remember holding the prototype in my hands, waiting for the right moment to show them. I had spent months building it. Late nights. Burned fingers. Every dollar I could spare. Finally, I placed it on the table. It was small.
Clean.
Simple. A lightweight device designed to monitor early health and stress changes in pets.
To me, it was hope.
To them, it looked like nothing. My father leaned back first. He did not even pick it up. He just smiled in that quiet way that meant he had already made up his mind. Nobody is going to buy that, Chloe. My mother crossed her arms, her tone softer, but somehow sharper. You are too smart to waste your life chasing ideas like this. Then my sister Emily laughed. Not a polite laugh. Not an awkward one. A real laugh. The kind that fills the room and invites everyone else to join. It looks like a toy,
she said.
Are you serious right now? And just like that, the table shifted. The conversation was no longer about my idea. It was about how unrealistic I was. How impractical. How I needed to focus on something stable. Something real. I did not argue. I did not defend it. I just stood there, holding something I believed in, while the people I loved treated it like a joke. And the strangest part, one did not feel angry. I felt quiet because in that moment, I stopped needing them to understand, and months later that same useless idea was worth $100 million. The device they laughed at had a name. I called it PetSense. It was never just a piece of technology to me. It started with something much simpler.
Loss.
When I was 22, I had a golden retriever named Oliver. He was calm, loyal, always there after long days when nothing else made sense. One week, he started acting a little different, sleeping more, eating less. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that felt urgent. We told ourselves he was just tired. By the time we realized something was wrong, it was already too late. I remember sitting on the cold floor of the veterinary clinic, holding his collar in my hands, replaying every small sign we had ignored. Every moment we could have noticed sooner. That question stayed with me for years. What if we had known earlier? PetSense was my answer to that question. It was designed to track small changes that humans usually miss. Movement patterns, breathing rhythm, restlessness. Subtle shifts that might not seem important alone, but together could mean something was wrong. But my family never saw any of that. They saw a small plastic device clipped onto a collar. They did not see the nights I stayed up until 2 in the morning learning how to build circuits from scratch. They did not see the instant noodles eaten over my keyboard because I was too tired to cook. They did not see the failures. Version 1 overheated within minutes. Version 2 drained its battery before sunrise. Version 3 sent false alerts so often it made everything useless. Each time it failed, I questioned myself. Each time I started again. Anyway, version 4 was the one I brought to that dinner table. It was not perfect. Not even close. But it worked just enough to prove one thing: this was not a fantasy. It was a beginning. 2 days after that dinner, I stopped checking my family messages. Not because they were loud, but because they were consistent. Links to job listings. Articles about failed startups. Short sentences that sounded like advice but felt like warnings. You need stability. This is not realistic. Do not embarrass yourself. At some point, the words stopped hurting and started sounding like background noise. That was when I called Daniel Brooks. I had met him months earlier at a small tech workshop. He was the kind of engineer who spoke less and observed more. I did not expect much. Maybe a polite rejection. Maybe a quick look followed by a careful no. Instead, he studied the prototype in silence for almost 10 minutes. He turned it over in his hands, checked the wiring, scrolled through the data on my laptop. Finally, he looked at me and said something I will never forget. This is messy, Chloe, but it is not useless. I did not realize how much I needed to hear that until that moment. Not praise, not excitement, just someone who did not laugh. Daniel came over that weekend with a toolbox and 2 coffees. By midnight, my apartment looked like a disaster. Wires across the table. Sensor boards next to cold pizza. At one point, We used my bathroom scale to simulate pressure changes from different pet sizes. It was chaotic, but it was progress. A few days later, he introduced me to Sophie Carter. Sophie did not care about the hardware at first. She listened to my story. Then she looked at me and said something that changed everything. "You are not selling technology. You are selling one more chance." I frowned. I had been explaining sensors and data patterns for months. She shook her head gently. "People do not buy features. They buy relief. They buy hope. They buy the feeling that maybe this time they will not lose something they love too soon." For the first time, I understood what I had really been building, not a device, but a second chance. The first time PetSense worked outside my apartment, it did not feel like a breakthrough. It felt quiet. Daniel and I had arranged a small test with a local animal shelter. Nothing official.
No contracts.
Just permission to try the device on a few dogs and collect basic data. I remember clipping PetSense onto a small terrier named Max. He looked completely normal.
Calm.
Friendly. The kind of dog you would never think twice about. For 2 days, everything looked fine. Then on the third night, the data shifted. It was subtle. Slight changes in movement. Increased restlessness. Breathing patterns just a little off. Nothing dramatic on its own. But together, it triggered the alert we had designed. I almost ignored it. After so many failed versions, it was easy to assume the system was wrong again. But something about the pattern made me pause. I called the shelter the next morning and suggested they get Max checked. They hesitated at first. He looked fine.
No visible symptoms.
Still, they agreed. Later that afternoon, my phone rang. The shelter manager sounded different. Not confused. Not skeptical. Grateful the vet had found an early-stage infection.
It
was treatable, but if they had waited longer, it could have become serious. I sat in my car after the call ended, staring at the dashboard, trying to process what had just happened. It was not a big launch. Not a headline. Not a viral moment. But it was real. For the first time, PetSense had done exactly what it was meant to do. It helped someone notice sooner, and that changed everything, because success did not feel like applause, it felt like silence, the kind of silence where you realize this might actually matter. The invitation to pitch came faster than I expected. A small pet technology showcase in Los Angeles. Not a huge stage, but big enough to matter. Investors, veterinarians, startup founders. The kind of room where one good impression could open doors and one bad moment could follow you for years. I told my family in a short message. No one replied for hours. When Emily finally did, her response was simple. "Try not to embarrass yourself." I stared at the message for a second, then locked my phone and kept packing. The morning of the event, I arrived early. Too early. The room was still quiet, booths half assembled, people moving with the kind of confidence I was still trying to fake. Daniel adjusted the demo setup. Sophie rehearsed the opening line one more time. I stood there holding the prototype, wondering if maybe my family was right. At 10:30, the doors opened. People started walking in. Slowly at first. Then more. Questions came. Can it track sleep patterns? Does it work for older pets? How accurate is the data? For 10 minutes, I forgot to be afraid. Then Ryan Cole walked in. I recognized him immediately. We used to work at the same company. He was known for being charming in meetings and ruthless behind closed doors. He walked toward our booth with 2 investors beside him and a smile that already felt wrong. "Chloe Bennett," he said loudly enough for people nearby to hear. "I heard you left a stable job to build a pet." Mood ring. A few heads turned. Sophie went still. Daniel shifted closer to me. I felt my chest tighten for a second. Then I remembered something important. He wanted a reaction, so I did not give him one. "It is a predictive wellness device," I said calmly. "You're welcome to see the demo." He laughed. Predictive is a big word for something that clips onto a collar. I turned on the tablet and started anyway. The screen displayed data from our shelter trials. Movement changes, rest disruption, stress indicators that aligned with later veterinary checks. I explained the system, how it did not diagnose, how it identified patterns early. One investor leaned closer. Another asked follow-up questions. For a moment, Ryan disappeared from the room. Then he raised his voice again. "Where is the proof? This is not just noise." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because of him, but because I had heard them before at my own dinner table for 1 second. Everything went quiet again, then I answered. The proof is in the pattern. One signal can be noise. But repeated changes across multiple behaviors are not. A veterinarian standing nearby nodded. That is the correct approach. Ryan's smile faded just slightly, but the moment was not over, because later that night the real humiliation began. I did not realize anything was wrong until my phone started vibrating nonstop. At first, I thought it was a good sign. Messages from the showcase. Maybe follow-up questions. Maybe interest. Then I opened the first notification. It was a photo. The same dinner from weeks ago. The same moment I had tried to forget. I was standing beside the table, holding pet scents, while everyone around me was laughing. Emily had posted it. Her caption was simple. When your sister says she is building the next big thing, but it looks like a cheap toy. The comments were worse. Laughing emojis. Sarcastic replies. People adding their own jokes. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. Ryan had liked the post a minute later. He shared it. Startup culture is wild. I stared at the screen, reading the words again and again, feeling that same quiet from the dinner table return. Not loud anger, just something heavy, and still Sophie gently took the phone from my hand. Do not respond, she said. Daniel looked ready to explode. We can report it. We can take it down, but I shook my head because deep down, I knew something they did not yet see. It was already too late. The post was spreading fast that night. I barely slept. By morning, the damage had grown, but something else had changed. Our inbox was full, not just hate messages from pet owners. I wish I had something like this before my dog got sick. Is this available? Yet can I test it? I read each message slowly, trying to understand what was happening. The same post that was meant to embarrass me was bringing people to us. Sophie walked in with her laptop, eyes wide. Chloe, she said, this is not just attention, this is traffic. I let out a small breath. I did not know I was holding attention. Does not mean success, but it means people are looking, and for the first time the laughter was no longer the end of the story. It was the beginning of something else. The attention did not slow down. For days, my phone became a constant stream of messages. Some supportive, some mocking, some curious. It was overwhelming, but it also meant one thing: people were watching, and when people watch, others start to move. That was when Ryan made his move. A week after the post went viral, he announced his own product, Pet Track. The name was clean. The branding was polished. The launch video looked like something from a major company. Smooth animations. Confident voiceover. Promises that sounded familiar, too familiar. I watched the video twice, then a third time. The language was different, but the idea was the same: early detection, behavior patterns, peace of mind. My stomach tightened. Daniel did not say anything at first. He just leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, studying the screen. Sophie was more direct. He is moving fast because he sees the opportunity and he has something we do not: resources. She was right. Ryan had funding, connections, a full team ready to execute at speed. We had a small office, limited cash, and a product that was still proving itself within days. Investors who had shown interest started asking new questions. Do you have protection? What stops competitors? How fast can you scale? One meeting was canceled without explanation. Another ended with a polite, we will stay in touch. For the first time since the shelter test, doubt came back, not loud, but steady. Then my family reappeared. Emily called first. I think you should be careful, she said. His company looks serious. My father sent a message with one line: take a smaller win before you lose everything. My mother followed with something softer: you do not have to prove anything to anyone. I stared at the screen, reading their words, concern wrapped in doubt, advice built on fear, and for a moment I almost listened because walking away early would have been easier, safer, cleaner, but something inside me had already changed, and I was not ready to give this up. The invitation came 2 days later. Sunday dinner. No business talk. Just family. I knew what it was: not support, not curiosity, a conversation I had already heard before, just in a different tone. Still, I went. Part of me wanted to believe something had changed. The house looked exactly the same. Same table, same chairs, same quiet tension sitting beneath everything. For the first 10 minutes, they tried small talk, safe topics, careful smiles. Then my father reached beside his chair and placed a folder on the table in front of me. I did not open it right away. You should take a look, he said. I already knew what it was: a job offer, 6 figures, benefits, stability, everything they had ever wanted for me. You can still do your project on the side, he added. Weekends, evenings. There is no need to risk everything. My mother nodded. Her voice softer. "We just want you to be secure." Emily stayed quiet, but I could feel her watching me, waiting. I finally opened the folder. Clean pages. Official logo. A future already planned out for me. I closed it slowly and looked up. "You invited me here to offer me a way out." My father frowned slightly. "We invited you because we care, because we see where this is going." "And where is that?" He did not hesitate. "You are going to lose to people who are better prepared." The room went still, not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. I looked around the table at the same people who had laughed, at the same people who now called it concern, and in that moment, something became clear. They were not trying to understand me, they were trying to protect themselves from my failure. I pushed the folder back across the table, then I stood up. "You are right," I said quietly, knowing when to stop matters. They relaxed too soon because I was not agreeing with them, I was letting go of them. "So tonight," I said, "I stop asking this family to believe in me." No one laughed this time. I turned and walked out before dessert, before apologies, before they could turn doubt into love again. After that night, everything became quieter. Not outside, inside. I stopped checking for approval, stopped explaining, stopped trying to translate my decisions into something my family would understand. They believed in stability, I believed in building, so I chose silence. And then I got to work. A few weeks later, we secured our first real investment. Her name was Laura Mitchell. She was known for being sharp, direct, and impossible to impress. When we walked into the meeting, I expected questions. What I did not expect was how deeply she would challenge everything. "Your retention assumptions are weak. Your manufacturing timeline is optimistic. What stops a bigger company from copying you?" She did not smile once. By the end of the meeting, I felt like everything we had built was being taken apart piece by piece. Then she closed the deck and looked at me. "You are not polished, Chloe," she said, "but you are stubborn in the right way. I can work." With that investment changed everything. We moved out of my apartment and into a small office with one window facing a brick wall. To anyone else, it looked like nothing. To me, it looked like progress. We hired 2 engineers, a customer support lead, a data consultant who spoke in charts more than words. Sophie added a small bell near the entrance. Every time we signed a new shelter or pilot partner, she rang it. The first time it rang, I froze because it meant someone believed in us enough to try. But growth did not come without problems. Our first major setback hit harder than expected. A batch of device casings came in with a flaw. The clip loosened under movement. 3 devices fell off during testing. One user posted a video calling PetSense unreliable. Within an hour, Ryan shared it. "This is what happens when you move too fast." I watched the post spread, feeling the pressure build. Again, we had a choice: protect our image or protect our users. So I picked up a camera and recorded a message. We paused shipments. We admitted the flaw. We explained the fix. My voice shook once. I did not edit it out because trust is not built on perfection, it is built on honesty. And this time people noticed. The response to our mistake surprised all of us. Customers did not walk away. They leaned in. Emails came in thanking us for being honest. A veterinarian wrote that transparency like that was rare. A shelter director said they trusted us more after the recall, not less. It felt strange. At first we had expected criticism. Instead, we were building something stronger: trust while we were fixing our product. Ryan was accelerating his pet track, launched officially 2 weeks later. The rollout was fast. The branding was polished. The marketing was everywhere. At first, it looked like he was winning. Pre-orders were high. Influencers posted about it. Tech blogs praised the design. Then the reviews started coming in: confusing app, inconsistent alerts, battery issues. At first, it was a few comments, then more, than patterns. Users reported false alerts that caused panic. Others said the device missed obvious changes completely. Ryan went quiet online. No responses.
No updates.
No explanations. The same confidence he had shown at launch disappeared in contrast. Our growth was slower, but steady. We answered every email. We hosted live sessions with veterinarians. We shared data openly, 1 user at a time, 1 review at a time. PetSense started gaining something. PetTrack was losing credibility. It was not loud, it was not viral, but it was real. And in the long run, real always outlasts fast. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting at my desk, reviewing customer feedback, when Laura walked in without knocking. She never did that. "Something is happening," she said. I looked up immediately. "A major pet healthcare company has been watching us." My heart started beating faster. Watching us? How? Customer trust, retention, data quality, shelter partnerships, everything. She paused, then added, "They want to talk." The company was called Ardent Pet Health. They were not a startup. They were established, global, the kind of company that could take what we built and scale it far beyond anything we could do alone. Our first meeting was cautious. Their questions were detailed. Their expectations were high. They did not care about hype, they cared about impact. After the call ended, I sat there in silence because for the first time, I had to ask myself a different question, not can this work, but how far do I want it to go? The first offer came a week later. It was strong, but not enough to change everything. The second was better still. I hesitated because PetSense was not just a company, it was personal, it was Oliver, it was every night. I refused to quit. Laura asked me something simple: do you want to own all of this and grow slowly? Or do you want this to reach as many people as possible? I did not answer right away. I thought about the shelter, about the emails, about the quiet moments when the device actually helped someone notice sooner. This was never about ownership, it was about impact. When the final offer came, $100 million cash and stock team retention commitment to expand the shelter program, I did not feel excitement. First, I felt still because I knew everything was about to change. The announcement went live on a Tuesday morning at 8. I read the headline twice before it felt real. Ardent Pet Health acquires PetSense in $100 million deal. For a few seconds, everything was quiet. Then my phone started vibrating. Messages from the team, congratulations from investors, emails from people I had never met, and then my family. My mother called first, then my father, then Emily, one after another. Their names filled the screen like nothing had ever happened. I did not answer, not at first, because I remembered something clearly. Every moment I had tried to explain my idea before it had a number attached to it. Every time I had asked them to see me before the world decided I was worth listening to. The calls kept coming, then the messages started. Sweetheart, we are so proud of you. We always knew you would do something great. Please call us. I stared at the words, reading them slowly. We always knew. I let out a small laugh, not because it was funny, because it was familiar. Success had not changed them, it had revealed them. By noon, extended family joined in. People who had never supported me suddenly had stories about how they always believed old conversations rewritten in real time. Failure had been mine alone, but success now, it belonged to everyone. I placed my phone face down on the desk for the first time in months. It was not heavy, it was quiet again, but this time the silence felt different, not empty, free. The celebration was supposed to be simple, a small gathering at her office. The team, a few partners, people who had been part of the journey before it became a headline. I was standing near the back, holding a glass I had not touched, when the receptionist walked over. Chloe, she said quietly, your family is downstairs. My body went still. Of course they were. I walked to the lobby slowly. Laura beside me. My mother stepped forward first, her eyes already red. Chloe, sweetheart. I took a step back. She stopped immediately. Your father stood behind her, holding a small gift bag, like this was a celebration he had always planned. Emily looked different, quieter. We came to see you. My mother said this is a private event. I replied. Your father cleared his throat. We are family. That word felt heavier than it should have. Were you family when you laughed at me? No one answered. Were you family when you told me to quit? My father looked down. I was trying to protect you. Were you protecting me when you made me feel small? Silence again. Then Emily stepped forward. I am sorry, she said. Her voice was not defensive this time, it was real. I was jealous, she added. You were doing something brave, and I made it small because I felt small. The honesty caught me off guard for a moment. Everything softened. Then my mother spoke again. Too quickly, she apologized. Can we come upstairs now? People are asking about us there. It was not understanding, not regret, reputation. I took the gift bag from my father, opened it, and saw a framed photo of all of us. Family is forever written on the back. I handed it back. No, I said quietly, family is not something you remember when it becomes convenient. My mother looked shocked. Do not be cruel, she whispered. I shook my head. This is not cruelty, this is clarity. I looked at security and nodded. Please escort them out. No shouting, no scene, just a door closing. And for the first time, I did not feel like I was losing something. I felt like I was choosing myself. 3 days later, I stood on a small stage inside the same animal shelter, where everything had truly begun. No luxury venue, no dramatic lighting, just worn floors, quiet volunteers, and animals that needed someone to notice them. I held the first prototype in my hand, the same one my family had laughed at, cracked casing, scratches across the surface. Still working. I looked out at the room, then began. A few months ago, I showed this to people I loved, and they laughed. The room went still. I did not say their names. I did not need to. They called it unrealistic. They called it a waste of time. I paused for a second, then I continued. But this was never built from confidence. It was built from loss, from late nights, from refusing to ignore something that mattered. I lifted the device slightly. This is not about technology. It is about noticing sooner. It is about having one more chance. I took a breath, and then I said the only thing that felt true. They laughed. I built. The applause came slowly, then grew. But I was not listening to it because the real victory was not the money, it was not the headline, it was this: I no longer needed anyone to believe in me before I believed in myself. If you have ever been doubted, do not waste your energy proving them wrong, use it to build something that proves you right. And if this story meant something to you, take a moment to like, share, and tell me in the comments what is one thing you kept building even when no one believed in you.